I'll bet you've heard about this theory that we only use 10% of our brain's potential, and if we could do more than that, we'd have superpowers, teleport, and maybe time travel. This is a century-old myth that got everyone hooked on the idea that if we had more knowledge, we could surpass Einstein. It all goes back to the 1890s, when a psychology professor at Harvard claimed that humans don't reach their full potential. His statement gained a ton of momentum and started spreading. In the 1920s, a self-help movement began based on that belief, where a ton of books came out trying to motivate people. But the 10% myth was a misinterpretation of neurological research in the late 19th century. Neurologists have now disproven it, saying that on any given day, we're able to use 100% of our brain. So, what would happen if we gained infinite knowledge? Well, picture this. You've woken up and you feel differently. You scan around your room and see the plant you bought 2 months ago. Suddenly, you know its name, what plant species it is, when it came into existence on Earth, when it will cease to exist, and how it grew from a seed. You watched its life flash before your eyes. Then, at the corner of the room, you catch a quick glimpse of the guitar your mom got you from a thrift store. You see how it was manufactured decades ago and who purchased it first. You listen to the songs played on it around a campfire and how the owner ended up giving it to charity. But then, you see its future. You'll accidentally break it in 3 years while you're moving out of your parents' house. You head downstairs and meet your brother in the kitchen. You see him talking with your mom about whether he's done his homework the night before. You're shocked. Not only do you know what homework he had, but you can also tell that he's lying, and you can read his mind. Now, don't get me wrong, there could be some benefits to becoming a real-life encyclopedia, but there could be a downside too. Our brain is like a super-fast processing computer with a ton of storage. More than 1 billion neurons connect to create the network that makes up our thoughts and how we understand the world. Right now, all the neurons in my brain are connecting, and I'm thinking that Mars is the only planet we know of that's controlled by robots. What are you thinking now? Let me know in the comments. I'm looking forward to reading the weirdest replies. Your brain is responsible for your sleep, your dreams, your appetite, and every move you make. Our knowledge capacity is colossal. If we had unlimited information, we could find a way to live forever, or we could descend into chaos. Maybe our brain could create a black hole, or it could explode. That would be mind-blowing on its own, literally. But I'll get into that in a bit. The full capacity of the human intellect isn't fixed, but some studies estimate it to be 2.5 petabytes. So, if our mind was a computer, it could store up to 300 years' worth of videos. And no, petabytes are not dog biscuits. Let's go back to your room and imagine you have all the knowledge in the world. There are 3 possible outcomes in that scenario. One is that you'll regret it instantly. You won't be able to deal with all the knowledge because you'll probably learn something you didn't want to know. You'd be aware of everyone's thoughts, feelings, what's happening around the world at any given time, and what's about to happen. So it could be damaging to your own sense of self. Another possibility is that you'll feel superior to everyone else. You'll know the outcome of any action before it happens, and you could read people's minds. Because of this, every consequence will be predicted. You'd already know every decision a person will make even before they do. So it'd be like watching a movie in real time. And if nobody else is superior to you, then one of these 2 things could happen. You'll turn into a supervillain where you use your knowledge for bad, or you try to help the whole world. The second one will overwhelm you. You'll have to care for more than just one person. I mean, it's hard enough for me to keep one sim character alive. Imagine having to do that with 7 billion people in real time. The third possible outcome is that you'll lose your humanity. That's a continuation of the second scenario. Infinite knowledge is something no human has ever experienced. You'd see what happens beyond the universe. You'd know about other intelligent life and alien civilizations. You'd even be aware of whether or not we have souls. Then you wouldn't be able to experience the emotions that make us human, such as surprise, hope, wonder, and fear. Our feelings are based on the unknown, so if you know everything, it'd be impossible to experience them. You'd become an emotionless robot. One solution is to ignore what you just learned and act like it isn't there. But for how long? If you're aware of the outcome of an event, how would you be able to ignore it? Even then, that's the least of your problems. Remember the neurons I told you about earlier? Well, memories are formed through billions of their connections. These connections are called synapses, and they can become stronger or weaker. In order to form a memory, the brain uses two methods: chemical and electrical synapses. The chemical synapses send information through a neural pathway. Think of it this way: one little neuron releases molecules inside a small space, and the neuron next to it picks it up. Now, in an electrical synapse, there's a gap between neurons, so proteins create a link to connect the two. Electrical synapses don't go far, but they are fast. They're the ones we use when we need to respond instantly. The chemical one is for processing information that doesn't require you to act right away. So, if you had to learn all the information in the world at once, you'd only use electrical synapses. And if infinite knowledge were to travel through your brain, it'd overload it. There wouldn't be enough pathways available for it to go through. So, automatically, your mind will select the data that's important and delete the rest. That means you won't know everything after all. But, for the sake of argument, let's assume that your brain has a powerful CPU and huge processing capabilities. What happens to your memory? Memories are our way of telling time. The more we have stored in our brain, the more we've lived and experienced. That's why time seems to pass slower when we're in class learning new things than when we're out having fun. Picture yourself in class staring at a clock. When you watch the seconds go by, they seem to be moving slower and slower. Your brain is filled with information as your eyes move. When the pointer lands on the next second, you're still processing data, and it appears like time is slowing down. If you were to gain infinite knowledge all at once, your brain would process that information forever. Think of how your computer freezes when you import all the data at once. The same thing would happen to your mind. Time would freeze, and so would your brain. A brain freeze without ice cream? But let's also ignore these biological limitations. Can we ignore physics too? Let's go back for a second. While you're trying to learn everything, the electrical synapses will have to create the memories all at once. There we have more issues. Your brain will get overwhelmed with the flow of electrons. Then neurons will start shooting signals like crazy. The proteins will struggle to keep up, so everything will go down the same pathway. And that won't last for long. The proteins will heat up like an electrical wire because of resistance, and they'll get destroyed by the current. And this is when gravity comes into play. Your mind is now a small area with an infinite number of electrons. Like all subatomic particles, electrons have a mass and therefore gravity. So, finite area plus infinite electrons equal a black hole. As the knowledge begins to make its way through your brain, the infinite electrons will create a gravitational pull and start to suck in everything around you, including your plant and your guitar and your brother's homework. But your problems won't end there. There's a theory that black holes can only grow. But in this event, something called Hawking radiation will be more applicable, where the black hole will evaporate, and so will your brain. So it's settled. We can't beat biology, and we can't beat physics. It's usually the other way around. I don't know. All the knowledge in the world, including predicting the future, seems like a lot of work. I'd rather read the occasional book and watch cat videos on YouTube. So there. Hey, if you learned something new today, then give the video a like and share it with a friend. And here are some other cool videos I think you'll enjoy. Just click to the left or right, and remember, stay on the bright side of life.